This is at the end of part 3. So you know there's 6 parts, so this is the middle of the book. And this is the last chapter of part 3. And the chapters are short, they're not long. And then this is the very end of part 3. Don't rile him. Let him get some sleep. He can eat later. Right you are, answered Razumikin. They're there looking at Raskolnikov. They both went out, closed the door. Another half hour or so, Raskolnikov opened his eyes, heaved himself over, arms flung behind his head. Who is he? Who is this man who came from under the ground? Where was he? Where did he see? He saw everything. There's no doubt of it. Now, this is this man that he'd met in the street. And he's just wondering, and this man seems to be looking at him and seems to have an interest in him, and now he's going crazy about it. But where was he standing, and where was he watching, and why did he come from under the floor only now, meaning out of the background, and is watching Raskolnikov. Raskolnikov went on, turning cold, shuddering, and in the case that Nikolai found behind the door, how is that possible? Evidence, one little thing in 100,000 overlooked, and here's evidence as big as an Egyptian pyramid. A fly flew by and saw it. Is it possible? In other words, a fly flew by and saw me kill her. I mean, it's absurd. And he suddenly felt with loathing how weak he'd become, physically weak. I should have known, he thought with a bitter smile, and how, knowing myself, anticipating myself, did I dare take an axe and bloody my hands? I had to have known beforehand, but I did not know beforehand. He whispered in despair. At times he stopped still at some thought. No, those people are made differently. Now here he's running into his philosophical ruminations. No, those people, the special people, they're made differently. The true master, to whom all is permitted. He sacks Toulon, this is Napoleon, makes a slaughterhouse of Paris, forgets an army in Egypt, expends 500,000 men in Moscow campaign, and gets off with a quip. And when he dies, they set up monuments to him, and thus everything is permitted. No, obviously such men are made not of flesh, but of bronze. Now just look at that little rumination there. And he tosses in these very sophisticated Napoleonic allusions, which he assumes his reader's going to get, and probably do. They certainly, when he gets to the 500,000, left in Moscow, then they get it. But I mean, it just shows you how very sophisticated this is. At times he stops still at some thought. No, those people are made differently. The true master to whom all is permitted, sacks Toulon. All at once, extraneous thought almost made him laugh. Napoleon, pyramids, Waterloo, and a scrawny, vile registrar's widow, a little crone, a moneylender with a red trunk under bed. Well, how is Porphyry, for instance, going to digest that? It's not for them to digest. Aesthetics will prevent them, meaning the little people who are trying to understand the great people. Aesthetics will prevent them. Would Napoleon say be found crawling under some little crone's bed? Ha! See, so under the bed of the dead. There were moments when he felt he was almost raving. He would fall into feverishly ecstatic mood. The little crone is nonsense, he thought ardently, impetuously. The old woman was a mistake, perhaps, meaning the sister. But that's not the point. The old woman was merely a sickness. I was in a hurry to step over. It wasn't a human being I killed. It was the principal. So I killed the principal, but I didn't step. I stayed on this. All I managed to do was kill, and I didn't even manage that, as it turns out, meaning he may not get away with it. Why was that little fool Razumikin abusing the socialists today? So he just switches topic. He just switches all of a sudden to his friend, some remark his friend was making about the socialists. They're hardworking commercial people concerned with universal happiness. No life is given to me only once. Never will it be again. I don't want to sit waiting for universal happiness. I want to live myself. Otherwise, it's better not to live at all. And so, I just didn't want to pass by my hungry mother, meaning out in the streets, clutching my ruble in my pocket while waiting for universal happiness. To say I'm carrying a little brick for universal happiness, so there's a feeling of peace in my heart. Ha ha. He's carrying the brick, meaning what he did, because that's all for universal happiness. Human universal happiness. There were moments when he felt he was almost raving. He would fall into I want to live myself. Ha! But why did you leave me out? I have only one life. That's him. See, me. He's turning back to himself. An aesthetic louse is what I am, nothing more. Suddenly bursting into laughter, like a mad. Yes, I really am a louse. Gloating, seizing upon the thought, rummaging in it, playing, musing himself with it, if only because first I'm now reasoning about being a louse, second because I've been troubling all good providence for a whole month, calling it to witness that I was undertaking it not to satisfy my own flesh and lust, but with a splendid and agreeable goal. And see, he's talking to God there. He's talking to God, the universal. He's talking universal providence, and he's ha ha ha. I'm going to test providence. I'm talking to God. I'm going to challenge God. Third, because I have resolved to observe all possible justice in carrying it out, weight, measure, arithmetic. See how clever? See, now he's become scientific. See, now he's become scientific about carrying it out. So he says, I was scientific about it. I weighed it. I measured it. I chose the most useless louse of all, and having killed her, decided to take from her exactly as much as I needed for the first step, no more, no less. Ultimately, I'm a louse, he added, because I myself am perhaps even more vile and nasty than the louse I killed. And I had anticipated before that I would tell myself so after I killed her. Can anything compare with such a horror? So now see, in this split second, he reverses everything and decides he's a worse louse than she was. So his whole structure, his whole philosophical structure, it's all over. At that instant, he's going to reverse in another instant. Oh, triteness, meanness. Oh, how well I understand the prophet with his saber on his steed. Allah commands, obey, trembling creature. He's right. The prophet is right when he sets up a first-rate battery across the street somewhere and blasts away at the innocent and the guilty without even stooping to explain himself. Obey, trembling creature, and forget your wishes because that's none of your business. Nothing will make me forgive the old crone. So that paragraph, that wonderful paragraph, oh triteness, he just flips in a second and imagines the commander, Bismarck, with his battery of guns, turning them on Paris, and blasting away the arrogance of it. And then he drops back to himself. His hair was damp with sweat. His lips were trembling, parched, his eyes fixed, turned up to the ceiling. There is a little tiny journey into that mind. It's spectacular. It's just spectacular. I say, listen to me. So there's where it was written. There's the apartment where it all ended in 1881. And here is the incredible funeral. All of Russia knew someone very great had passed away. They were right. And so thousands and thousands and thousands came into the streets and accompanied his body right here to the cemetery, and you can visit it still. It's still there. So, there. Little music to make you feel better. What a book. What a book, I say. What a book.